Have you ever received feedback on a piece of work that you've done and it felt more like a telling off rather than an encouragement? It's likely that you have, and it's likely that the way that you have responded to that is from an emotional place. So you may have become very angry at that, very angry at the person that's given you feedback. You might write an angry email around that, or you may have become really upset about it and become very introspective. You may have tried to bargain with that person about increasing your mark, or you may have simply ignored it and denied that it existed. But your response to that kind of negative feedback often comes from an emotional place. And we cannot be surprised, therefore, that students respond emotionally to feedback, and particularly emotionally to feedback that's written in a particular way. And there's some quotes here that outline some of the ways that students might start to internalize that feedback and the story that they can tell themselves about what that feedback means. What we're looking at here is an example of inner feedback. And remember, every time that you leave feedback for a student, every time you leave a comment for a student, that's going to a person, and that person is going to interpret those words in a particular way. So we're often told when we're writing feedback about the importance of pointing out the positives, and this is what this tip is focusing on. It is saying, remember to check yourself when you're leaving feedback for a student to not just focus on the aspects that needs improvement. Don't just focus on the deficit model. And again, this is something that we're really used to. We have been socialized into this. When you've been coming through university and the school system, throughout education, you are used to people commenting on the problematic aspects of your work. And you now have the opportunity to break that cycle. You now have the opportunity to say, yes, those are the things that are important to change or to shift around your work, but here's the things that you've actually done well. So what you're doing is you're building the students' confidence. You are inspiring them to do better. And you're inspiring them to change their behaviors next time. And again, remember, that is the main point of why we're giving feedback, to inspire students to change. So when we're pointing out the positives, it doesn't just mean kind of like empty platitudes of saying, you know, good job, and then just leaving it there, just giving those sort of like real headline news, but giving them some depth about the things that, where did they gain some marks? Where are they on the right track? And I'm going to put some indications up here of what that might look like. The important point here is that you're going to give them some detail about the aspects that went well in their work. And this will require a bit of a mindset shift, because it requires you to assume the best of a student. It requires you to take on a positive mindset about what the student is trying to achieve here. It's less about that idea of, you know, the theory X, let's say, of seeing students as unmotivated or lazy or trying to get away with something. If you assume that when you come into leaving feedback, then the feedback that you leave will assume this deficit model. However, if you assume a more open understanding of what the student's trying to achieve, that theory Y, that the student is inherently motivated, they have worked really hard for this, they want to do well, and they want to do well because they want it for their personal development. If you assume the best of that student, then the feedback that you're going to give is going to be of better quality. The mark will be the same, but the feedback that you give and the way that you frame it will be different. So a way that you can think about this, you know, imagine that that student is the person in your class who you always have those really positive interactions with, and you know that they work hard. Imagine every single script that you're looking at is exactly the same as that. Every single script has got a student at the other end of it who has spent hours crafting this thing, and they really, really want to do well because they want to inherently do well. This takes on the role of you being the critical friend. So you are now not just being nice to the student, but you're being kind to them. You're trying to lead them through. And once again, you're inspiring them to do better, and you're inspiring them to do better by pointing out the positives. And this is a really simple technique, but it will make sure that students do keep reading that work and that will actually action some sort of behavior change as a result of it.